Now this looks delightful. Hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and a few weeks ago on the channel you may have seen us look over this game and be a little impressed as we were playing and talking about some other games coming out over the next few years. Yeah, from the creators of Green Hell comes a brand new game that seems to be a little bit Starship Troopers, a little bit Conan, and a little bit of everything. Everything that I've always enjoyed in base building games, but something uniquely Creepy Jar. Yeah, these folks made Green Hell, as I mentioned, and that was probably one of the most unique survival games. Very hardcore and difficult to learn, yet then when you get the hang of it, very satisfying to build a base in South America in the jungle. And then, of course, that game released into 1.0 after 5 years of support, getting 21 different content updates from the developers, including a whole new campaign or expansion upon the game, and also multiplayer. Well, that's got me very hopeful for this game, which looks like it's certainly in development, no surprise there, but one that hopefully will launch with a lot of success and attention. But I don't think it'll be the best it will be at launch. No, I think that road lies further, much further down the road for these guys. Well, the base building looks fun. I'm here today to talk about the gameplay, the base building, and something that I hope to get into for more survival space games. We certainly have a lot of them, but I don't think we have enough of them, from everything like No Man's Sky and Starfield and even like Star Citizen, although there's not as much building in that. I always appreciate the weapons, the vehicles, the building, the transportation, and the vibe that each and every different game like this gives you, with this one again feeling a little bit like Starship Troopers with all the creatures that attack, but the base building feeling a little bit like perhaps Satisfactory and maybe a little bit of Planet Crafter too. Well, anyway, I hope this game, when it comes out, hopefully in the next year or so, is very well done along the lines of the 1.0 launch of Green Hell, although going from the jungles of South America to the planet of whatever they happen to be creating certainly seems good. Now, this game has changed its name. We're going to take a look at this game as a whole here today, Star Rupture, and break it down bit by bit. So again, thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. Thanks for leaving a like, and let's jump in to a little bit more. So Chimera used to be the name of this game before being renamed to Star Rupture, which is a little bit more appropriate for what I expect to be these solar flare type events, which in a way kind of reminds me a little bit of Frostpunk, except instead of hiding from a storm, we're hiding from a sun exploding. I don't know exactly what that will mean for how we'll protect ourselves, but the base that we're going to build will be certainly important and kind of makes it interesting to have defenses or whatever prepared in cycle for both you against radiation and extreme heat, but then also enemies that seem to attack, and base automation too. Now these cinematic cutscenes showing a little bit of the planet, the player character or characters, and the world really look good. It certainly seems like there'll be 4-player multiplayer there, possibly right at the start with the images of the explorers there and the sun exploding, but the concept of it looking a little bit like 1 minute like Iceland and then the next some volcanic explosion really looks cool. And I hope to see more of the development on this and any other type of event that could happen on the planet, or multiple planets. I think it'll just be one, but of course the objective is to build a base and focus on automation, focus on defense, and then what seems to be maybe a little bit of the re-terraforming of the world, like there's some sort of a natural renewal where the plants and the animals have all, I guess, adapted to this event and are ready for anything. Now, there seemed to be like a sun explosion at the beginning. It looked like lava, right? The sun actually preparing for a solar flare or a star rupture, and then something towards the end, a blue symbology like that. And of course on the left and right side of the screen you can see that both red and blue kind of being a theme here for possible different types of events. Now it also does remind me a little bit of Icarus, which we played before on the channel many times, and having it be a little bit more like a spaceman, caveman at the same time was a little strange, but I think it worked for that game quite well in being really like almost prehistoric survival, but then explaining why you would get more modern weapons. Here we see what we would expect to see in a possible scientific futuristic type game. You know, we're not talking about NASA discovering a new planet. We're talking about something that certainly feels a little bit like it is a planet that is being discovered by somebody who's playing also, like I said, Satisfactory at the same time. And I like that. I think Satisfactory's recent 1.0 launch has really inspired a lot of other games to really focus on utilizing some first-person elements like conveyor belts instead of it just being a top-down game, and that influence is certainly going to be seen here, as well as some of the environments that they're showing off too, the inspiration for the locations in which we'll explore, which the biomes I think will be presented a little bit like how they are in the Planet Crafter. Now, looking back at what Green Hell has done previously, there are certain biomes to their adventure taking place in the Amazon rainforest too. There are areas that feature more caves, more open area, maybe a little bit more seemingly like wetness where you're kind of being rained on a little bit more, although the weather is kind of more dynamic that way. But more trees, more bamboo, more water, and more lakes and things like that. And the map's not overly large, but the survival is very realistic and very immersive, and so when you go a short distance, it actually feels like you've traveled a long way, because along that way you're probably gathering the food you need, the fats and the proteins and other things like that. And so I'm hoping that this game, in addition to its beauty and its boldness in order to try to take in different elements that we would only see on planets that are kind of newer or more diverse in a very short distance or span, for example, the Giant's Causeway versus like a giant redwood forest. Those two locations are completely on the opposite sides of the Earth, and among other types of abnormalities. There we are. Yes. But yeah, so the interesting thing is that if they can combine all of that into a small space and allow us to defend against hostile creatures and do a lot of base building, I think that right there, that's a winning formula. I mean, we all want to see a lot more base building games. We certainly want a lot more survival. We want to be able to even make vehicles in these types of games too, and I even get a little bit of Death Stranding feeling or vibe when I look at it as well, because it does remind me a little bit of how the world looks in that one, and also some of the structure building that you can do in Death Stranding, which is very fun, building roads and other ways to connect settlements. Hopefully it's also present in this game too. But of all the games that I played over the last few years, Forever Skies, and Green Hell, Satisfactory, those are all present here, so I'll be judging it that way because that's what I played the most, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to experience. And their goal is to bring something new to the genre every time that they make a new game, or really what they've done 21 times before in Green Hell was to provide something that wasn't necessarily in that type of genre before, open world survival crafting, or to bring the basics in, like for example multiplayer and expanding the story. And I hope that we get something here that will launch into maybe a 1.0 that almost feels like early access. It's really starting to blur the lines. You guys are gonna have to let me know, by the way, down below in the comments section how you feel about early access these days, because honestly we get games like 7 Days to Die that have been in early access for 10 years. Or we had Satisfactory recently come out that was in development since like before 2019 when it was first available on Epic, and then in 2020 it came to Steam, and now finally as of like the other day it just came out. And so we're getting games that some people are really excited about early access and want to be a part of the development, and then other games that come out into 1.0 and yet they never feel like they are because developers add so much to it over time. We have Manor Lords, for example, that medieval city builder that recently released into early access, but yet a lot of people saying that even that game, even though it released into early access, had more features and more feeling and more passion put into it than any other game that was even like a $70 game and full price AAA. Now, Creepy Jar by no means is a AAA developer, but when I personally went to Poland to meet with 11-Bit Studios back in May to see Frostpunk 2 being made, and also the Alters, and talk to them and get an idea what the hell they're trying to create there, and talk to the voice actors and such, there's an incredible amount of passion, man, coming out of Poland and the Czech Republic and Slovakia, and these people are just like wanting to make good games. That is their only goal. You try to search for any sort of alternative idea of what they're trying to do. Are they trying to do something that's just, are they just trying to replicate, AAA developers that already exist? And it seems like that's not the case. They're trying to make a game that they want to make, a game by gamers for gamers, and I know that sounds very cliche and annoying to hear. I don't know. I hate saying it, but honestly, we need more games like that. That's when we end up with the Stardew Valleys. That's when we end up with games like Mashinki and also Minecraft in another sense from long ago. But it's great to see all of these small teams coming together that have all these different talents, from quality assurance to building new types of systems and UI, and then also soundtracks and music. Again, going back to 11-Bit Studios, the composer of the Frostpunk series, and also working on the Altars. Peter, forgive me, I forget his last name, but that guy, the City Must Survive type vibe coming out of that music is certainly alive and well. And so it looks like everybody is trying to bring their best to the table in these countries, not to try to do it as a job or a career, but they're certainly trying to represent their presence in an industry in the world. And that's why I think we get a lot of great things out of CD Projekt Red, like The Witcher, and then eventually CD Projekt Red making, of course, Cyberpunk, which didn't launch so well, but a lot of people feel like they made up for it with their constant improvements to Cyberpunk 2077, and then eventually going on to make a DLC for that, and now working on some new projects too. But who knows? We're not talking about a budget that's like Grand Theft Auto or The Witcher here for anything that Creepy Jar makes, but I think you end up getting so much more out of a game like this. It's cool to see recently Creepy Jar, kind of fully releasing Green Hell in my eyes, even though 1.0 has been out for a while. Now that they've done 5 years of free updates and whatnot to the game, and the game kind of being finished in its development and now on sale, like literally having discounts and stuff, it's hard to say no to these types of games, man. Like if you love everything from Subsistence to Project Zomboid to Subnautica and Raft, these are the types of games that I think are really interesting and trying out. And I think a lot of these buildings look like there's something out of an RTS game in a way. They do remind me a little bit of structures from Planetary Annihilation, again going back for the 100th time saying Satisfactory, but clearly I think that's a good influence for the industry to see it in more of a survival sense, and to also see these types of games give more challenge beyond the whole, hey, you're free to build a base, but also, of course, the option to tone that back a little bit, and instead of just, building a base and surviving, maybe you could just put it into a sandbox mode and also freely build with, your kids or, a group of young friends who don't really want to toy around with resource gathering, but love building things. Hopefully that'll be present here. So there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of ground for everybody to enjoy, and of course multiplayer too, and a lot of the weapons and tools that they're making look very fun to use, very satisfying to just click and have something fall into place, which I'm trying to think of it, like all the times that I build conveyor belts in these games, they're so frustrating, and I'm still waiting for somebody to do it right. But I think we're getting closer, and I think many games are starting to do these types of systems with power delivery through power lines, or conveyor systems or piping systems doing things where they're a little bit more fluid. And so Star Rupture certainly seems to have the basics here, just at a first glance. Nobody's played this yet. I haven't played it. I certainly want to, and I don't even know what we're looking at for like a beta date or a demo or even more footage from it, but it looks like Creepy Jar is doing a good job of trying to show everybody that they're working on it and that it's coming soon. And I get the same vibe from this team that I did, for example, with Kingdom Come Deliverance and with Warhorse Studios. I went to their studios, I went inside, saw their motion cap room, and met some of the voice actors for that game. And when you look at all the people on their computers working on small things like maps and assets for the game, literally designing windows for buildings, it's so cool to see how all these things are being built by hand and not things that are just assets that are being modified in a way. Of course, some things have to be that way, and then eventually mods can be improved. Things can be added to later, meaning that they can modify that and make a more complete version and have things as placeholders, and that's totally fine. But it certainly looks like they're doing a good job with the base building and the idea of having a simple base that, again, reminds me of the Planet Crafter, and it looks like everything's kind of customized, but yet familiar at the same time. Building all of your systems that fall into the floor, and that's how things are powered here, where, you power up a grid, essentially, and then everything's powered through that. So we'll have power storage and power management. I hope to see a little bit of that. And then also, of course, walkways that allow us to walk around like we're in Riven or something like that, like Mist, it almost looks like. So it's cool, the planet that they've made and some of the things that they're doing and the systems that they're working on for the planet. Now I just want to, or the base building, and I want to play this damn thing. and I'm hoping that we at least get a little bit more of a look at this one sometime around the end of the year, perhaps around the time of the Game Awards, although for them to put in some sort of an advertising spot for this game would be quite expensive. But it looks like they're doing cool things with the system, and they've got a very good presentation here with their video that's really explaining the things that they're trying to do with the different transport systems. You know, we have, instead of conveyor belts, we kind of have shuttles, like little drones that bring things around, so that's unique. But I still think we'll see the traditional, conveyor belt systems and things that we know and love that, of course, have to be familiar, and I think the same as other games to fit into the genre, like a solar panel and a windmill then have to feed a battery that then feeds your base. I mean, that's just the way it's going to work. But to do it differently, too, and have different systems would be very unique and something I want to see. Now, the only thing that's going to really set this apart for me, aside from just, hey, here's a planet, go build on it, and, oh, by the way, the sun explodes every once in a while, would be the story. And so we're going to have to see why humans are here, or who they are, or if we're from a corporation, or if we're settlers, that kind of thing, and then to see how the mining works and how long it takes to gather resources. And this game could have what you would normally see in a game like this, where perhaps you could use a slider to minimize the amount of materials you have, like to gather, for example, in Rust. And so I'm really hoping to see something that's going to be big. I've got a lot of hopes here. Green Hell was so good, and that's the reason why I'm making this video today, is because they've done a great job with that previous title, and to go into something new is not going to be easy. They've spent 5 years updating something old while also making something new, and Green Hell is not something that's bad because it's been around for a while. It's just something that is certainly, well, needing to be built from the ground up. And so I think a lot of the experience of making Green Hell, 21 different updates over 5 years, will be present here. And I hope that's going to be the same story for Kingdom Come Deliverance and for Frostpunk. We're getting a lot of games that are being delayed, and I am absolutely happy to hear it. I'm happy to see it. I hope it happens more often, where publishers and developers give everybody more time. More time is more money, and that means more of a risk. But honestly, I think we're all kind of tired of these octuple A games and $700 PlayStation 5s. Oh yeah, did you hear about that? And then getting the Enhanced Ultra, Mega Ultra, Deluxe Enhanced, Deluxe Ultra Upgrade Edition. You can put on 14 tags to it, but that's something that I don't think I'm seeing from some of the studios I just mentioned, where, sure, there is the Deluxe Edition that might come with the bundle of all the DLCs, but we're not getting things that you've normally seen over and over again. We're just getting some good games, damn it, and that's, I think, all I want to play here is some damn good games. And I can't help but think, man, do those characters look like they're from Rust or something like that? Yeah, everybody wearing all the orange jumpsuits and stuff. I don't know, kind of funny. All right, well, you let me know down below all your thoughts on this game and many more. And let me know some of your favorite survival games out there, especially those that focus on space and or space exploration. I would even consider, No Man's Sky on there, as well as, like, for example, well, I guess we have Star Citizen 2, but I'm thinking more a little bit like Subnautica, where the base building in Subnautica is pretty damn cool, and to build underwater was very unique, yet you're also given the opportunity to explore above the water for a little while. So hopefully this game will have lots of underground caves that we can swim through, bases we can build anywhere, and of course, hostile flora and fauna, and multiplayer, and an interesting story that is, very, very enjoyable. Now, another game that I mentioned a few times is the Planet Crafter, made by two, a married couple that have just focused on that game and listened to community feedback. And even though that game came out in 1.0, I still feel like, and now has a recent update for a rover, that game is very clunky still, in a very lovely way. It's going to be a game that is going to have flaws and is rough around the edges, no matter how much time the developers put into that. But that's not why the community loves it. It's because people can really tell when there's heart and soul put into a game. Like, what the hell is that card game? I still have yet to play it, Balaltro, and then also another game by the name of Shotgun Roulette. So it's cool to see indie developers starting something, and then, of course, teams being formed, and then making something like this. There you go. All right, well, that's all my thoughts on Star Rupture, Creepy Jar, and also Green Hell, and the hope and hype for games coming up in the future. Let me know what you think down below, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.